One global review of education research found that each additional year of schooling is associated with higher long-term earnings on average, which shows how education can shape a person's future far beyond the classroom. So when you think about the children and the families connected to the Mawanda Project, what kinds of long-term transformation do you hope that education creates in their lives and their community?
Yeah, so education is so key. Like we were talking about, it really shapes and changes their future. The mission of MD Standard School is to produce competitive citizens and to promote a sustainable and creative world. So even with our teachers and staff, we're creating jobs for them and help, that's their career.
Yeah.
And so with our primary 7 students also, that's the last grade of primary. Mm-hmm. And so if you pass the PLE, the primary leaving examination, that allows you to go on to secondary school, go on to a trade or vocational school. And that's what these students are doing.
Yeah.
And so again, it's like the opportunities, having that primary 7, PLE and passing it, again, it's pivotal. And so we've been so fortunate that every one of our students that has taken the PLE exam has passed.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so, when we first started the school, we didn't actually start with P7. It's like a whole extra level because it is that you got to take that exam.
Yeah.
So there's multiple subjects. And so at the time when we first started, we weren't ready for it.
Okay.
But the past 4 years, we stood up P7, and then again, those 4 years, we've had graduates every year.
I'm sure our state schools wish they could say the same thing about SATs.
Everyone passed. Everyone's
right.
great.
They would be shouting that from the rooftops.
Yeah.
And so how cool is that?
Yeah.
To see that these kids are really seeing their value in their own education, but also believing in themselves and saying I do enjoy school and I do want to go on and make my future better and just pursue something, I think that overall education helps to increase the odds of anybody's job going forward. However, I think sometimes in the States we find that it's pretty easy for people to maybe somehow get experience at a job or find a job that doesn't require a college education. However, in countries across the world, it may not be so easy. So having education for them is really important. And I'm sensing that is a really good opportunity for them to have.
The last trip I took was in 2024. And part of our goal was to see where some of these students ended up after graduating P7 at MD Standard School. And so we did a handful of interviews, and we saw students that were at secondary school, the next level of school. And then we saw one of the girls who was a seamstress or learning. She was still in school to become a seamstress. And then another one was working in the local market. And so, just hearing their stories about what education did for them. Also interviewing just the younger students of what do you want to be when you grow up, and hearing them just say lawyers, doctors, and just having those dreams and aspirations and goals of I have an education and so I can do something with that now.
I'm one step closer to my dream. Yeah. That's great. I'm laughing because I'm going to keep going back to the interview with Esta, but it's just so funny how parallel these are, is that they do the same thing. They talk to the students about what are your dreams? What do you want to be? And she said one of the kids said they wanted to be an astronaut. But these kids are dreaming that I can do that one day. And it's amazing that you're coming alongside of them and helping them to keep dreaming that dream that one day they're going to achieve that. So Michelle, now I have a question that I'm sure everybody's been asking themselves this whole time since I told them what you do in the beginning of this interview is you have experience in biomechanical engineering and mechanical engineering. And you work for the government in San Diego, which I'm sure is a very demanding job. And so how do you balance those two things? Because again, we've talked about, I'm sure there are a lot of people who have passions like yours and want to pursue something like it, but they're saying, well, I have a 9-to-5 or I have other commitments. Surely I can't juggle both. So maybe you can kind of speak to them and inspire their passions a little bit and say how you make it all work.
Yeah. So I was very fortunate that when I was like starting the Mawanda Project, my job wasn't super demanding at the time.
Got it.
And so that just like allowed me the mental capacity to like after work, you know, I worked all day, but then to be able to still get on a computer and research stuff, figure out the website, and all of that. Over time, that's now definitely shifted to where like I'm busy at work. And so then, yeah, like I get home and I'm like, there's a lot to do. I think a lot of it though is like prioritization and time management. That's huge. I think we now have a lot of good systems in place with the budget. So my brother who went on the trip back then, that kind of roped him in, right? And so he is our CFO and has really come up with a good system for like when we spend money and when we kind of are like more cautious about what we're spending things on. And then like if we're in the red, it's like no spend, which like it's so simple, but it, I think really allowed me the ability to be like, no, we don't have the funds. Like in the beginning, we were talking about any like request or priority that came in. It was like, okay, like how do we fund this? How do we fund this? And so it just always felt like there's so much to do. There's so much to talk about. Over time, we've really like, okay, this is what the budget is. And we know there's going to be things that come up or there's going to be infrastructure projects. And we just have to kind of follow the system that we built. And then like when we need to discuss things of like, hey, we do have money that we can put towards something. What does that need to be? Okay, Pastor Dan, what are your top priorities? You know, it just like that structure and organization, I think really helped me kind of, and the advisory board just understand like when we should and shouldn't spend things. And it was just like, it's kind of simple.
So I think going back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier is don't be afraid to ask for help, and trust that the people that care about you want to help you with your passions, and also like building those strong structures from the very beginning will set you up for success down the road when your job gets more complicated or your family has needs that come up. Like you'll have those systems in place. Is that like a good takeaway of it?
Yeah. I think too, like just, setting aside time. So it's like, okay, during the week, tired, but I love going to coffee shops on the weekend. So it's like, okay, I'm going to sit at the coffee shop, do the newsletter, and just kind of put those things in place. And I like being around people. I like doing work with other friends at coffee shops when we're not talking, but like we're both getting work done and doing all of that. So I think just some of those things
just makes you feel special.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, we'll jump right into the next question then, since we're kind of on that path, Michelle. So we've talked about how if someone has a passion for starting their own passion project, what are those achievable steps that they can do? Those are all super helpful. But if someone maybe is like, I don't want to start my own project, but I want to help you with yours. What are some actionable steps that people can do to get involved with Mawanda Project? What does that look like for them?
I would say check out our website, sign up for our newsletter. I think that's the best way to kind of learn about the project as a whole. Our newsletter has all the like monthly updates of like how the school is doing, how the students are doing, what's our like next big project. I would say just email me. That's an easy way. Like that's how you reached me of like, hey, I saw, get this to Michelle. And so, I feel like that's great. Like you mentioned earlier, we have our annual fundraiser. It's a 5K fun run. We always need, whether it's like volunteers or raffle items. That's probably like my favorite thing about the 5K. It's a 5K fun run and raffle. And so we've just gotten cool prizes. And that's just been by like asking friends or people like, hey, do you have anything that you can donate? Do you know of anyone, experiences, that type of things? And like that just is another fun incentive to help fundraise, for the Mawanda Project and our different projects. So I'd say like those are a couple of the different things. And I don't know what I don't know. So if someone is like, hey, like, I think this could be great for the Mawanda Project, or like, have you thought about this? Like, I'm open to it.
Okay.
I would say too, like an area where I think we've just not been consistent is like social media, where like for me, like around our fundraising time, like we'll definitely be up on social media, but then
Sure.
it's just hard.
It's easy to fall off during the off season.
Yeah,
totally.
exactly. So it's like, yeah, if anyone's like, hey, I actually am good with social media and I would love to either come up with a plan or the structure or do it, like, yeah.
Yeah, if you're a social media manager and you have a passion for the Mawanda Project after this, contact Michelle. I'm sure she'd love your help. And this is a, not a time-sensitive request, I'm sure.
Right.
Like a year down the road, I'm sure Michelle could still use your help with something like that. Well, that's super helpful. If anybody is interested, I'll put that information that Michelle mentioned in the description below if anybody's interested.